Hi YouTube and welcome to Danielle's Denture Diaries. I am Danielle. This is my husband Matthew.
Hello.
I told you don't be weird. We are basically going to be talking about what it's like with dating and talking and other things while I have dentures. So, okay. Just a couple disclaimers. If there are any questions that you guys have, go ahead and drop them in the comments as we go. An additional disclaimer is anything that is disrespectful or otherwise insinuates other things in the comments, I will be removing those and blocking those. So please keep it respectful for the sake of our group. Okay, you're going to go first.
Okay.
So briefly tell me about your dating history, like the number of serious relationships you've been in.
So I've had about 2 serious relationships before ours, and they lasted about 2 years apiece, and both resulted ending with me being cheated on.
Yeah.
So I kind of stopped dating for a little bit, and then we met.
Yeah. And then for me, pretty similar. I've been in, I would say, 2 serious relationships before Matthew. Pretty much the same thing. They both ended with me being cheated on as well. And ultimately out of it, I got my son, which was awesome. Otherwise, yeah, they were both longer term, so I would say both you and I were pretty much looking for something long term, just didn't exactly work out the way we'd wanted.
I agree.
Dating beliefs for you is the question. Did you date to marry, just to have fun? Were you looking for something more, or what was your mindset with dating?
I was dating for the seriousness of it, not really the fun aspect. I don't really believe in that. In terms of marrying, didn't really see that with people before. Didn't really know where it was going to be going. But I just think it didn't really get to that point with other people just because the connection just wasn't there to see that future.
Well, now I feel like a heathen. I'll answer something pretty similar. I always looked toward wanting to eventually be married. I just obviously made some not so great decisions in my past. But it was never to necessarily just have fun or date around. Never really was that kind of a person. And then the question for me is, did I think about the impact of what dentures would have on dating? And of course, I think the common theme for not just myself, but most people with dentures is, of course, how do you not think about it? You think about how dentures are going to affect you for the rest of your life. And at least from what I can tell, a lot of people don't want to be alone for the rest of their life. So they think about the person they're either with at the time or who they could potentially be with or who they're not going to be with because they have dentures. And then what is your experience and or history with dentures?
Really the only experience I have is with my grandma having them. And I know that she got them after having dental implants. So that was really the only thing I really had experience with there. And didn't really go too far into learning anything about it, just because it didn't really seem like a topic that would be brought up a lot with me.
No, probably not.
So yeah.
So she had implants, and didn't you say they, like her body had rejected them or they got infected, they had to be removed or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you didn't hear a whole lot about that, just that it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Did you know anything about why she went with implants? Or was it just
No, that was prior, so I didn't really know.
Well, fun fact. She had implants. She doesn't wear her dentures anymore, right? Or she does?
I don't believe so.
Oh. Just curious. How long after me getting dentures did you and I start dating? Well, I had gotten my dentures September 21st of 2021.
And we started dating about a month later.
Yeah. We were talking like the last week of October and dating in the beginning of November.
Yeah.
We had to talk about it before this video was made, so just to be clear. And then why Tinder? Why was that your platform of choice?
I mean, it was kind of during the COVID time, and I also work from home, so it wasn't one of those things that I was like going out or anything like that. I didn't really enjoy going out.
No.
I don't really find that's the best way to meet people all the time. But that's my own personal perspective on it. And just with Tinder, I mean, there is the opportunity to find something more than just what other people tend to use it for.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
So to be clear and kind of bounce back, that is how Matthew and I met, was on Tinder. Apparently he super liked me, which I didn't know that was a thing, and apparently you have to pay for a super like, so he paid to like me a lot. I did not pay anything for Tinder, but I did like him back, or I swiped left or whatever, and then it was like, you matched, and I was like, shut up. No, we didn't. But it was the picture with your truck for me and the dog on the boat. I think in the one with the boat you didn't have facial hair too. I think.
I don't remember.
So for me, very similar. Why Tinder? I went with Tinder because I am not a going out kind of person. I never have been. I went out maybe a handful of times as a younger adult, and they were not good experiences for me personally. And being a single mom, going out isn't completely an option. And not to mention being a single mom, wanting to protect my son and my own personal feelings, and the fact that I had just gotten dentures, I didn't even know what it would be like to even date at all. Like, I couldn't imagine trying to sip coffee while trying to learn how to wear dentures. I probably would have spit really hot coffee on you.
Probably.
But Tinder was a really great way to kind of put my toes in the water, see what would happen, and see if I could find anyone with enough sustenance to even go any further. From the safety of my own home. So, yeah. What were you looking for on Tinder? What was your mindset?
Looking for the next step in life. What could possibly be long-term, and hopefully be long-term. Because like I said earlier, I'm not really about the short-term and just kind of the messing around side of things. Life's short.
Yeah.
It's about finding that thing that's going to mean the most.
It's really sweet. See, he's going to make me sound like a jerk. Didn't know what I was looking for on Tinder. It was so new for me to be dating and having dentures in the whole mix. And then add on top of that, I had a 3-year-old. So I didn't think I was going to find anyone serious. I didn't know if I was going to find anyone who I would actually like or be able to trust. So I was more or less just trying to see what could happen or what would happen in hopes that I would find something long-term. But yeah. And then when you first saw me, my pictures, our Zoom calls, could you tell that I had dentures?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No.
You couldn't tell anything was off?
No, I just thought you had really white teeth.
Really big white teeth?
Mm-hmm.
So with the pictures that I had used, my question for myself is, what photos did I use and why? So for anyone who doesn't know, on Tinder you pick 5 or 6 pictures,
Something like that,
for your profile, and the person can, you can click into the profile beyond just that initial picture, and you can look through before you like them or whatever. So the ones that I used were, one was with crowns that were still falling apart and breaking apart. I've talked to Matthew a little bit about it, and I've talked about it here in a few previous videos. There were also, I believe, a picture or 2 with my dentures. And yeah, some of them fairly older. But the reason that I used the variety was because, honestly, it was just so new to have the dentures. And I didn't just want pictures of, my face in, a white wall, just the same selfie over and over. I wanted pictures that would actually show my personality, too. So one of them was me in, a snakeskin dress, which I love animal print. And then another one was in a Spider-Man dress, because I used to be more into Marvel. Not anymore. But yeah. And then, so when we went from meeting on Zoom, we started messaging and then eventually texting. And then we eventually just kind of, I think I brought up us doing Zoom dates, right?
Mm-hmm.
I asked you just one night, hey, can we Zoom date or something?
Yeah.
So the question with that is, could you tell when I would speak that there was something off? Could you hear a lisp?
No.
Do you hear a lisp to this day?
No.
Never?
No.
I feel like I always have a lisp, because that's something else that people are always really worried about, is if they have a lisp.
If you do, I don't notice so.
And even if I do. And even if I do.
Yeah, if you do.
Yeah. So the question for me is, why did I ask Matthew to go from messaging to the Zoom dates? Honestly, I wanted to see if he was a catfish. He was way too cute, and way too sweet, and way too easy to talk to. I thought I was being set up. To this day, sometimes I think someone made him in a lab, or maybe he's being paid to be with me. Who knows? But doing the Zoom dates was, again, just keeping it safer. I wanted to know that he was a real person, because Tinder is an app, and I wanted to, at some point, tell him I had dentures in the very beginning. That was always going to be my thought process. So I didn't want to tell him, face-to-face over dinner, our first date, hey, by the way, I have dentures. Because I feel like that, for me, was just putting him in an unfair situation and me in an unfair situation, versus, at least over a phone call or a Zoom, you can hang up on me. So.
Well, I wasn't going to, so.
Well, I didn't know that, but I'd rather you at least have that option. Do you remember how I brought up and how I told you that I had dentures, and can you tell the story from your perspective?
You asked if I knew anything about, prosthetics.
Yeah.
Or if I had any experience with prosthetics. And I asked, what do you mean? And you said, well, your prosthetic leg. Which I didn't really... When I looked at your photos, your legs definitely looked, normal. So didn't really see that being a thing. And you kind of brought up, well, my teeth are prosthetics. I have dentures, and for me, it didn't even change anything for me. When you told me that, it just wasn't one of those things that bothered me. I don't think it should. I care more about your personality and the way that you and I get along so well that it's not one of those things that would ever bother me. No, it doesn't affect your day-to-day life, and it's just really how you go about it. 99.9% of the time, I forget you even have them.
Till I say something. Or I make a really horrible joke, which I think I've also talked about previously in the channel. Like when we talk about someone getting their teeth knocked out, I'm like, oh, go ahead and knock mine out. It's not going to hurt. So actually going off of that, something I didn't think to write down is when I did tell you about me having dentures, do you think there's any way or anything that otherwise could have been different that would have made you feel different? Like maybe if it did affect my day-to-day, or if I would have handled it differently with you.
No, I think like being so upfront about it in the beginning, I think that's really important just because, you know, you can really get a judge of like who the other person is that you're telling.
Yeah.
Whether that's really a deal breaker for them or if you mean more to them than that.
Yeah.
Because to me, that means nothing to me. It's not a big deal for me at all.
So basically, we need to clone you and have more of you out in the world for other people. The question for me is, why did I tell you when I did? Which I told you on the second Zoom date ever, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't the first. I think it was the second, maybe the third, but definitely not more than that. So about a week or two into us talking, or what was it?
It was probably roughly a week.
So I didn't give it very long. For me, I always knew I was going to, if I saw someone as being worth telling, it was going to be in the beginning. I don't have the ability to lie in me. If I try to lie, you don't have to know me very well to know that I am lying. And not only that, but I don't see myself being able to maintain a romantic relationship if the other person doesn't know me for what I am and what I bring. And honestly, I feel like the thing that I had been put through and me making the decision to get dentures was one of the best decisions of my life. And if the other person couldn't respect it, I mean, that would be a deal breaker for me anyway.
No.
Plus, not to mention thinking about, like, my son, he knows that my teeth are removable, so he probably would have told you anyway.
Yeah, probably.
But I wouldn't want someone to be in my son's life that would almost, like, teach him to make that the priority versus, like, him one day caring about a woman's heart or, you know, her mental and emotional, I guess, intelligence. So yeah. And why did I tell him the way I did? So I brought it up kind of lowballing pretty easily for him. It would have been a pretty easy out, in my opinion, by me bringing up, how do you feel about someone with prosthetics? Does it change your mind with anything? And what worked well was that he immediately did think about the romantic side, like, okay, she's asking about prosthetics. If I saw her with a prosthetic leg, that wouldn't change anything for me. Like, I would still be interested. So that right there told me he's compassionate at least, and a prosthetic in general wouldn't sway him. Now, if he would have brought up, like, I don't know, you walking in the store and seeing someone with a prosthetic leg, that would have been a little harder to navigate, but you just kind of worked with it, I guess.
No.
But I lowballed him, and then, like, I didn't just outright tell him, like, hey, by the way, my teeth can come out of my head. But more or less just seeking for that compassion and understanding in his heart, and lucky enough that he had it, so. What were your initial thoughts when I did tell you I had dentures, if any?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't really have any thoughts on it.
None at all.
It was just kind of one of those things that just kind of came and went, and just didn't really think anything on it. I never really have, I guess.
You didn't think about how would it affect kissing? Nothing?
No.
Interesting. Given the choices between being told right away like I did, right away as in like still a week later, like not the first conversation we ever have, but a week later, or even later on, call it like a year, 2 years into our relationship, or never, what would you have preferred if you were given that choice?
I mean, I'd prefer the way that it went, just because it's one of those things that I feel like if you're looking to move forward with someone, even after that 1 week time, you're going to start getting the basis of, like, yeah, I want to keep talking to this person. Well, I think it's just better to know right up front just to see if that person's actually worth your time.
For my sake or yours?
For your sake.
Well, I want to know about your sake, though.
Well, like, for me, I'm kind of indifferent with it because it doesn't really matter to me. For you, like, it obviously matters, like, that somebody's not, like, just, like, oh, well, that's a deal breaker type deal, like I referenced before.
Yeah.
I think it's just better to know that you're not wasting your time.
See, you have a heart of gold. You're still thinking about my own feelings and not your own. So yes, we need to clone you. But let's not, because you're mine, so no. How did I feel after I told him? I felt a lot of relief because I had never told anyone before outside of like my team, and my best friend knew that I had dentures. So the fact that this was the first person I was interested in romantically that I would tell, it was like that was the first step to whatever the next step would be. And that first step is always going to be the hardest. But I felt a lot of relief, and I felt like we were talking about this question last night, and the best way to put it is that I put the ball in his court at that point where, like, okay, this is what I have and this is what I'm dealing with. So take it or leave it. And then I put the decision making into his court and let him make the decision of, yes, that is a deal breaker for me and I'm not interested, or yes, I am interested still. And how did I mentally prepare to tell him? Honestly, I had to make a lot of funny faces before we got on that Zoom call because I knew that was going to be the one that I was going to tell you. Yeah. But a lot of it was reminding myself that if he's the kind of person who's a jerk about me having dentures, that would be fine. Like, the last resort would be that I would hang up on the Zoom call and just block his number if you've been a jerk. Or the worst case scenario is that he would hang up on me and keep it moving, which is really sad because I wish I would have had more faith in him looking back, but how would I have known? I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But just at the same time also having faith that there was a reason why he was the only person, the first person, obviously the last person I'm going to tell in a romantic sense.
No.
So it worked out as far as listening to my gut too when it told me. What is it that you value more than looks? I kind of reworded the question from last night. So rather than being worried about, oh, she looks good without makeup, she has her real hair, she has fake nails, real teeth, whatever. Like, what is it that you do care about? Because if you don't care about me having my biological teeth, which in everyone else's opinion that I know of, we all feel, well, not all of us, but a good majority of us do feel like that would impact someone else's care about how they see us.
I mean, for me, like, honesty and caring the same for me as I care for you. Just kind of returning that back. A person's personality. I mean, it's got to be kind of close to your own. It doesn't have to match it, because that's not really normal for someone to match it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of having the same values. I think that's really important, because looks aren't everything. Because looks aren't going to what's going to hold a relationship together. It's going to be those core values.
But that is what got us interested. We swiped left.
Well, yeah. But I think, with all of that, what we have, I mean, that's kind of what leads up to, or led up to us getting married.
Yeah.
Or those bigger things. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not your looks that you're getting married on. And if you are, you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Probably.
Yeah. I think it's not going to last.
No. What qualities did I seek in the person that I would tell? I honestly can't stress compassion enough, and respect, and just the way that you carried yourself in our Zoom meetings or calls or whatever. Meetings. We had meetings.
Yeah.
We had conferences. He always kept his attention strictly on me. I think there were a few times you might have had the TV on in the background and you almost always ended up turning it off anyways.
No.
I think there was maybe 1 or 2 times that you looked at your phone, but beyond that it was something that was like work related, or you were waiting for a message from someone, but you always kept your attention on me.
Yeah.
And I know you were paying attention too, because you laughed at my stupid jokes. You were really good about like paying closer attention and really honing in when I had something more serious to say or ask. You showed a genuine interest in me, and I think your overall compassion turned out that you were an animal person.
No.
You're also a hunter, but regardless. So you love animals, but you also hunt them.
Yeah.
Go figure. But being a dog person kind of tells me you're a pretty decent human, I think. And yeah, I guess the rest of it was just intuition, gut feeling. All the messages you and I had, they weren't just surface level. They actually ended up being conversations I would have with a best friend pretty quickly. Yeah. Don't copy me. All right. So let's talk a little bit about intimacy, because that's what a lot of people are worried about as far as having dentures and either continuing to date, or they already are maybe dating, they're married, they're about to go get dentures, so they're trying to make the decision, or they're people who have had dentures and they're looking to get back out there. So,
No.
You ready?
No, I wouldn't have it.
So before we even answer that question that I have, how soon was it into our relationship that you and I had our first kiss? Because keep in mind, I had my full mouth extraction September 21st.
4 days in.
4 days in?
Yeah.
Was it really
Pretty
that
sure.
fast?
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought we did... No, maybe.
I think it was 4 days.
After we started dating or after we started talking?
I think it was after we started talking.
Probably.
And we started dating right after.
I'm not really surprised. Oh, yeah. Because I think we messaged the next day or something and made it official.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, so the question is, you did know I had full dentures before we kissed.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any hesitations before kissing me?
No.
None?
Mm-mm.
You weren't worried?
Mm-mm.
You weren't weirded out?
Nope.
Nothing?
Nope.
Could you tell in either us peck or French kissing?
No.
See, that was where I actually got really worried. Because kind of like how my dentures are right now, my bottom denture can still, and it could before even then, pop in and out pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always like super worried about like the muscle control and making sure that that stayed down. But I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm all right. Pet kissing wasn't as much of a worry or a fear. I think what ties in with what other people can relate to is that having like the palate dentures is like having a hockey puck in your mouth. It's just really thick. It's big. So I always get worried that you're going to be able to feel and be able to tell that there's something like right there behind my lip. But yeah. So the bottom line is that it's a head game. So the bottom line is that it's a head game with myself.
No.
Or us.
No.
So I know you can't tell what denture products taste like, but have you ever tasted anything funky or weird ever in all the times that we've kissed?
No.
Never.
No.
No glue-like taste, nothing.
No.
Okay. And that was just a random question I had because that's something that I can taste at least for a little while.
Yeah.
But over time the taste goes away, but I was just curious.
Well, and I think that can be also on like the basis of like it's probably not the same for everyone. I mean, some people might taste stuff like that, and some people might not.
True.
Because everybody has a different set of taste buds.
Okay, logical.
Just to be more clear on that. But I mean, for myself, I don't taste anything.
Yeah. All right, bigger question. You ready?
Sure.
In bed, do you find any experiences that are impacted or impacted negatively by my dental situation?
No, not at all.
Not at all?
No.
Even in those moments, do you forget that I have them, or do you remember and it just doesn't matter, or?
I mean, just for me, it's just never been a thing, like a problem.
No.
No.
Why?
It really goes unnoticed.
Why do you think that? I know why I think you think that, but I want to hear it from you. Like, why do you think it doesn't impact you? Because it doesn't seem like it impacts you really at all so far in a relationship when we've been together for a year and a half.
13 months.
Freaking mathematician.
But anyway, I mean, I think it really comes down to how strong our connection is. I think that kind of takes away from those things becoming noticed.
Yeah.
For me, nothing has ever came up where it's noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Unless I say it like what you were saying last night is like if I say something was too hard to eat or I'm like worried about trying to eat it or something.
Yeah, like you have to remind me that you have them. Like,
yeah.
Besides that, I never even really think about it.
Which is interesting that I have to remind you because that's something else that everyone's like really worried about all the time. So.
Yeah.
Would you say that if I was... This is completely off script now at this point, so...
Well, it's not really scripted. The questions are just written down.
Yeah. Would you say that if I was maybe more negative or upset, more immersed, I guess, in trying to figure out dentures, would you say that that would be tougher for you? Would you be indifferent?
No, I just try to find where I could support you and like if whether you're trying to learn how to do something better or how to do like just kind of manage it. I mean, I'm not one that wears them. I don't know anything about it, but I'd look to like find those answers to try and help you with it.
I don't think you would have had as much fun in the
But,
early stages, that's for sure.
I think what's important is that the person that whether everyone on here, did they decide to go about telling the person that they're with that they have dentures, really seeking to find out if that person wants to learn or find more understanding with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, try and help, them move forward with dentures or just feel more comfortable with that other person.
Yeah.
I think that's really important because I think the self-confidence is something that needs to be built up by your partner.
A little bit.
When things are feeling tough or there's a lacking in it.
Yeah.
It's more building the person you're with up and tearing them down for something that they can't control.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely wasn't very pretty in the very beginning of the process and the extractions, like right after, that's for sure. But I was just curious.
Oh.
What are some pieces of advice or feedback that you would have for anyone? Let's say not everyone in this support group always has dentures or is looking to get them. Some people here might even be just looking to learn more about how they can support someone else that they love or care about with dentures. So what would be your pieces of feedback and advice? Not that you've had to do a whole lot, but you have had to listen to me gripe about things like bone shards and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, the person that doesn't have them, I would just try and seek more understanding, whether it be from the person that you're with, if they're feeling more comfortable talking about it. If they're not, maybe just read up on it, and kind of get an understanding of what that process is like, or what needs to even dental care at that point.
Yeah.
Just trying to understand those aspects of it and what that person goes through, so you can be more helpful and help them feel more confident where they can have those conversations. For you and I, we've never really had that lack of confidence of talking about it.
Yeah.
I think that comes with us being very comfortable with each other.
Well, and the fact that I joke about having dentures too all the time, so.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's just trying to find that common ground in it, which isn't always easy because obviously, one person has dentures and one doesn't. That can be a tough common ground to find, but it's something that can be found.
Yeah.
If you care about that person enough.
So something else you didn't have to deal with, but something I've been talking about in the past few videos here is that a lot of people that end up going to need to get dentures or they're thinking about it, they have a hard time actually executing the plan. Like, they think about it for years and years and years and years before they actually do it. Do you think that if you and I had met, say, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever the case, before I would have gotten my dentures, would you have helped me, sit down and, help me make the phone call or even made it for me?
Yeah. I mean, you got to be supportive. You got to find what's going to be the better thing in the long run.
Yeah.
And what I've learned since we've been together, I mean, it's definitely was a good step forward for you.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely helped you a lot with, even the things your everyday things like eating.
Actually, no.
Obviously after learning the first couple of months on how to do that, but
yeah, you did have to kind of almost not deal with me, but you were even actually there for even a part of that learning curve of me trying to eat and work on eating. What was it was it a McDonald's cheeseburger that I bit into and I was like, oh my god, I always feel so great when I can bite into one, or what was it? I don't remember. Or was it
you
a
used
steak?
to eat filet of fish all the time because you didn't want to eat you didn't want to eat anything tougher like a burger or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just always being supportive where you can be.
Yeah.
And from your personal experience, from what I've seen, in this last 13 months, it definitely was a positive step forward for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Within, your confidence, and then also just living your everyday life.
Thank you. All right. Well, that's all the questions I can think of and all the questions that I had written down for now. But if you guys have any other ones that you'd like for me to throw at Matt and see what we can come up with, maybe we'll do a follow-up. Maybe I'll just post the answers in the comments for him, from him, whatever. He's not really on YouTube, so kind of new for you. But drop a question in the comments. Otherwise, I do have my channel email as well if you'd like to remain anonymous. If you like videos like this one, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more videos from me, not him in the future, go ahead and subscribe. It's mine still. It's still my support group. But I will talk to you guys later. Bye.